maybe a hybrid system can be.
So friends, welcome to this session on impact of COVID-19 on the Indian economy. And many thanks to all of you for joining this meeting. We have with us the people who are in my domain, who are teachers, who are my students now in the corporate sector, and who are all doing well. And many thanks all of you for joining. See, while I talk of this COVID-19, as you know, that the WHO has declared it as one of the pandemics, and it has affected the world over. And more than 195 countries have been affected from this, and with around 10 million people who have been caught by this disease, with half a million people who have died also. But then this is the impact on the health part, and but I'll be focusing more on the economy part. That what has been the impact on the economy, and thereof I start with on various sectors on what impact it is. Let's say, for example, just to give you a food for thought, and then maybe there are 6, 7 caselets that I will be discussing with you, and maybe later on, if time permits and we are there, we can discuss this. See, if you see on your screen, Ram Singh is a small farmer who just owns 1, 2 acres of land in the Jalandhar district. What do you think will be the impact of lockdown on him? Uh, then Mr. Om Prakash is a businessman. He is a micro or a small businessman who runs a small manufacturing unit for manufacturing egg trays. Do you think there will be some impact on him as well of the lockdown? This 3.5 months, what is the impact on him? Mr. Michael again is a tour operator who runs a travel shopping. Travel shopping, as you know, he provides us the air tickets, the train tickets, he arranges hotels for us and all this stuff. And do you think there's some impact on him for this? And Mr. Arun Malhotra, who's a professional, he's a BTech or an MBA who works for a company. And the last week of March 2020 onwards, there was a lockdown. For 1 month, he has received his salary, but he was worried whether he will be able to get his salary for the future also, and what happens, if he's late. Then Mr. Govind Ram is a migrant worker from Bihar, and he works as a street vendor. He's providing some food as a street food in Mumbai. And since lockdown, he's a worried man because see, 1.5 months he could have survived with a very meager savings that he had. What happens if this continues? And we know that this has continued for 3.5 months. And even the government of a state in India, let's say it can be any state, Punjab, Haryana, or Himachal, or maybe down south also, that all revenues have dried up. GST income is not coming. The other income that the state side is also not coming. What should the government do in this to survive? So again, there's a problem not only for the common person or otherwise, even government has a problem. Then there is this Mr. Pavan Kumar who runs a daily meat shop in Chandigarh, Sector 49. But he has witnessed huge rush of people during the lockdown. The goods are flying off the shelf very fast. What do you think he should do, and what is the problem that he's facing? Now, just to continue on this, the objectives of this schedule that we have, or the session that we're going to have, that after undergoing this, we would be able to understand what is the impact of lockdown in India on the two very sectors of the Indian economy, that is the primary sector, the secondary, and the tertiary sector. Then I will also talk very briefly on some selected sectors which had a lot of impact on it. For example, the automotive sector, the tour and travel sector, the MSMEs. Then see, while we are all Gen Z are from management domain, we know that in SWOT there is opportunities and threats. So with every threat there is some hidden opportunity. Then what are these opportunities which are therein? Then the governments world over had taken a lot of measures to mitigate such situations. Even Indian government took some measures to mitigate so that the this crisis is not so very hard on the people of India. What was that? And then lastly, I would like to discuss some suggested measures to improve the economy, wherein you can also pitch in that what is there. So we know very well that COVID-19 discovered in Wuhan, December 2019, now a pandemic status. All 195 countries affected. Around when I am speaking this, around 1 crore people have been affected by this, and 500,000 dead also. India also, this is last day's figure, more than 5 lakh people affected throughout the country. Maharashtra, Delhi, more affected, and more than 15,000 dead. Now, how did the government take on this? Just to recapitulate, that there was a Janta curfew on 22nd March, followed by lockdowns and curfew after 24th March, wherein different state governments went differently on this. And then unlock started on first week of June 2020. But then there were so many internal problems which came up, migrating people, they were walking from one place to the other, trains not moving, all this stuff and all. But I'll be focusing more on the economy part. Herein, like to just start with, what was the impact earlier, rather prior to COVID, how we were growing. So if you just remember that since 1990s, while we had the LPG, we were growing at 7-8%. And I've taken the figures from 2015-16 onwards while this government came up. So the growth was 8%, which was in 2016-17 even plus 8%. Now 2017-18 this starts growing downwards or southwards from 6.6 to 2018-19 it went on to 6.1%. 2019-20, the expected or estimated figure was 4.2%. And now see what will be in 2020, 21, 21, 22. It's a big question mark. So if you just go on this, it is not only, COVID. COVID, yes, we'll be discussing what impact it has come up on the various sectors. But since 2016-17, this has gone down the hill. And if you remember, while the elections were on in India, this was a big issue that we were not growing as such. Herein what has actually happened is that there has been total, like all aspects of economic aspects have been affected. There has been a domestic slowdown. People are not willing to buy goods. There has been international recession because of this. There's overall uncertainty in the system. And mind you, when there is overall uncertainty in the system, people do not want to make investments. So that is why there is no investment. And if there is no demand because of slowdown, if there is no demand because of this slowdown, then the industries are even wary because the capacities are not picked up. So lack of demand and all these are combined together. This makes a vicious circle. So in a nutshell, all the pillars of our economy of the country, that means the private consumption, the external trade, as well as the investments have been affected by these aspects. And this was earlier also. Now, because of this, this has aggravated the situation because we have slow demand during the last 3.5 months. Now we have started, opening up slowly. But there was closure of manufacturing activities because of curfew lockdown and because of the lack of manpower. Then there was the fall in global crude oil prices. This is a good measure as to show. But then otherwise, how things are there in, again, this is a big question mark on that. Ban on the foreign trade because nothing was moving. Then reduction in the commodity prices like metals, fertilizers, energy, etc. And curbs and tourism, hotels, aviation, which is a big industry. And as you know, that May, June, July is the 3 months period wherein there is summer vacation and all. And so you expect a lot of movement in terms of, lot of movement in terms of the people moving for the domestic tourism also as well as the international tourism. Overall, there are various agencies which have given a very pitiable kind of situation in this, and they have given the reports in the sense that India UN report says has been very very negatively affected because of COVID, and then there will be a trade impact worth around US dollar 350 billion. Similarly, Asia Development, which is another multilateral agency, it estimates the loss to around 30 billion US dollars to the Indian economy. Barclays estimate is around Indian rupees 8.5 lakh crores. So you can just see the figures, and wherever with these figures happening, your GDP will touch from 6.5 to maybe 3-4% as such because of all this. Now coming on to the first impact, what has been the impact on the primary sector? Primary sector meaning thereby the agriculture sector. So herein, as you remember, that in March we had the wheat crop coming up, and with at once the migration population and all, and the lockdown coming and curfew. See, there were two aspects which affected everything. One, the labor was not available. Secondly, the produce, which was to be shifted or from one place to the other, transportation and all that was also not available. So because of this, there was a lot of impact. But luckily, now we have, especially in the bouts, we of the country like Haryana, Punjab, and all, we have shifted towards the machinery part. So with combines and all this machinery, the farmers were able to reap some dividend, and then with minimum support price also, it did not affect much as it would have been. On the other hand, those farmers who have shifted to commercial crops, they were the ones who were most affected because during this time period, labor was not available, and whatever labor was available, because of demand and supply gap, they used to charge more. So these commercial crops became non-remunerative, and even to the extent that some of them, they didn't even pick up the crops from the fields as such. And it is an estimated part that there was a loss of maybe two-thirds of the total income to the total loss during this time period to the agriculture sector. In the secondary sector, there was a survey conducted by FICCI which said that how much population of the secondary or the manufacturing sector was affected by this lockdown. So it said that more than 53% of businesses have been affected. And the reason is that the supply chain of commodities, they have been affected. The commodities are not moving, and the focus was only on the essential commodities, atta dal types, wherein you were at home, you had to add something to survive, and the because of the non-essential which was there, the entire supply was stopped or they were slowed down. And major companies like Tata Motors, Grasim, Aditya Birla, Ultratech, Bharat Forge, L&T, they were all affected, and they temporarily suspended their the production and all because the capacity was already created. They did not want to create inventory, and in any case, the labor was not available. Now the tertiary sector, and as you know, in our country, the tertiary sector contributes, that means the services sector, contributes around 60 to 65% to our economy. So this was a big loss because the tourism industry, lost around 15,000 crores for March and April alone. The live events industry, like those people who go for various shows, agrotechs, and all these, the estimated loss is roughly around 3,000 crores. And even the Ola cabs and the Uber cabs and all, their revenues were down up to 95% because there was no movement as such, and they had to lay off people also. Similarly, hotels, airlines, railways, everybody they had to, there was cuts, salary cuts, laid off employees and all. And now coming on to the sectors, the MSME or the micro, small, medium enterprise sector is a very important sector for the Indian economy because it contributes one third of our total manufacturing outputs, employs around 12 crores to 14 crore people of roughly 60 crores that we have who are employable, then generates about 50% of India's exports and contributes around one third of our GDP. That means we are moving around 8-9%. 2-3% comes from the output of MSME sector only. And mind you, even prior to COVID-19, they were under a lot of stress because of some specific reform measures taken by the government in the form of demonetization, then implementation of GST, which was transition phase. Then this economic slowdown also created a lot of hassle, and then comes the COVID-19, which aggravates the entire problem. So they were under a lot of stress and duress during this time period. And further, because of international trade stopping down, and more than 75% of the raw materials that we have, that MSM, they come from China. So because of international trade stopping down, so it all stopped. And now again, because of the relationship that gone sour between India and China, so they are the ones who I think will be affected in another maybe 3 or 6 months also. And now we are moving towards that after neutral part. So you had shrinkage of exports for them. The production had stopped. There was non-availability of manpower or the labor, and they did not want to produce more because they were uncertain about how much will be consumed, what will be the demand. And see, mind you, like we were discussing while we started out with Professor Chawla also, that such units which are micro and small, uh, they are very they are very thinking in short term. They have always got the liquidity squeeze. They are never planning long term, and if they have some funds, they'll always invest it somewhere in maybe those assets which will not be liquid in nature. So now if there's a liquidity space, you will be suffering as such. So which will have an overall impact on the total part of the economy. Now, see, this had a spiral impact on the employment generation also. Since 2019, there was a big issue while this government was coming. That was the jobless growth. And mind you, jobless growth we are witnessing, even we were moving from 6 to 8%, 9% since 2000. But we were seeing a jobless growth in the sense that our jobs that were created were not corresponding to what we were growing. So that is why this entire period was jobless growth, and it is estimated that between 2012 and 18, we lost roughly around 60 lakh jobs as such. And the government came on this plea that we will be creating more jobs, but somehow could not do. Quoting from the CMI data, during this lockdown, uh, the unemployment increased, which was earlier 8.4% by in the second week of March, to roughly around 30% in May. The good point is that now, after since 1 month of the unlocking has been done, so now we are back to the same figure. This is what was 2 days back quoted by the International Labour Organization as per CMI data, that we are back to roughly 10 to 11% of joblessness for unemployment rate. And the best part is that the unemployment rate in the rural sector is better than what was earlier pre-COVID because of the now dependence of Mahatma Gandhi narrative. So they have been able to do well, and so this has been sort of neutralized in 1 month only. So joblessness, okay. Then there's another ratio, labor force participation ratio, which shows that out of the total population of labor, how many are willing to work as labor. So it increased. It showed a decline from 45% to 35% during January to April. So that means that earlier around 45% presented themselves for being in the labor market, and in April only 35% presented themselves. So therefore, it shows that even the workers had opted out of the job during this. So this shows a pretty bad thing. But the good point is that during this last 1 month of this small unlocking, things have come back to the generally to the same. And even the income levels, when we are talking about the economy part, income levels of people who were working in any sector, whether primary, that is agriculture, or secondary manufacturing, or tertiary, or the service sector, they have received a blow, meaning thereby that their incomes are down. As per the CMI data, the fall in income increased from a mere just 12% in April 2019 to 48%. So that means only the income of 48% of our total work population has fallen, whether he belongs to any sector of the economy. And further, this has led to the entire process has led to loss of so many of jobs in the market, and maybe this continues. And this has been pan in all sectors, whether in terms of the agriculture sector or manufacturing, medium scale, medium, micro, small, medium enterprises, even at the large scale also. Even there are job cuts and the salary cuts even at the level of multinational corporations and big corporates like Airtel, Reliance Industries, etc. And like I said initially, for the tax collection, the government have taken a hit because revenue collection for both the governments during these 3 4 months have spiraled down. We in Punjab were joking that the governments were very much willing to start off with the liquor sale because liquor provides you a lot of revenue to the state governments also and to the central governments also. And the coming along with petrol, it is one of the highest grossers. So that is why now it's a lot of discussions also that while the crude price is very down overall in the international market, still our petrol and diesel rates are 80 75 to 80 rupees as such we are because of the simple reason that whatever the government has lost during 2 3 months, and so petrol, diesel, and liquor is the only foreseeable and only visible way wherein they are trying to get that money back. Plus, you have a lot of now money will be put on our defense sector also with China and other countries, are closing on us, and then we are in such a situation. So therefore, you need to have, and I think this is a sacrifice that we are making and we should make, because if the government does not have funds, then this war or whatever, maybe it may take another 6 months or 1 year to over. Similarly, your GST collections were also lower, which was earlier start. The target was 1 lakh crore. It went down to 97.6 thousand crores. So, and during these 3 4 months, I think it will be further down to maybe 90,000 crores or 85,000 crores, because there was no movement, there was no good movement, no production, everything. But I think now with the things spiraling up, we will be able to cover it up. Informal sector, as you know, that only 10% or 9 to 10% of our labor force is in the formal sector, meaning the organized sector. And rest 90% they are in the informal sector. They are daily workers who get daily cash, somebody who is putting a puncture on your cycle, somebody who is a street vendor, somebody selling fruits, vegetables. They are all these people. And during the 3.5 months while there was lockdown, you could very well imagine what could have happened. That is why people, and especially 40 to 50 million seasonal migrant workers were also there who travel from so-called Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, all these states to, to make hay while the sun shines, to Delhi, Mumbai, Punjab, Haryana, wherein they get employment at slightly higher rates. So these 40, 50 million, while they could not cope it up, they started walking. And that is why, the things went bad for India. So what has happened is that people have lost jobs because economic activities are not moving, the factories are not running, the establishments are closed. So in all sectors, this has a lot of impact over these 90% of our population, roughly. The which you may say that roughly around 30 to 40 crore of our population who are even below the poverty line. So they work, they do not get job, they do not get income, and then there's no food also. So all these things are, that vicious circle which comes up as such. And also, I try to see what happened in the startups. See the funding that the startups were getting, even that has dried down. Data Lab Group, which is sold that there was a 45% decrease in the total growth stage funding as far as if you compare it to the last year. And I think this will be further affected because if you just see the history of our startups, majorly our startups, whether it was ATM or it was all these startups, Zomato and all, they had lot of funding from the Chinese entrepreneurs. So again, with the government sector coming up more restrictive on this, and then maybe the relations between two countries going down. So even this will have an impact coming on this. For the stock markets, which are the barometers of how the economy is moving, see, we went up till 48, 49,000 also. But in January, we touched 42,000. And from January to April, the figure for 8th April was 29,000, up to 30,000. And yes, we have recovered slightly. The last day's figure 126, which was while the trading was on, this was Sensex figure, BSC, 35,000. So we have, lost around one third of our of the Sensex, the points which were therein, were from roughly 42,000 to 28,000. So that means one third of the market capitalization has been lost. And the price to earning ratio, which was earlier 18, is now ranging between 20 to 24. So this means that the stocks are trading cheap out there in the market, and that is why even the government came out with a policy wherein it banned certain countries not to indulge into the stock buying at this point of time, so that the control of the companies do not change hands. Further, what is the impact on tourism as such? As I said, it is one of the very important part of the service sector, wherein the IAEO, Indian Association of Tour Operators, said that total losses would be around 8,500 crores, which is huge. And this has happened because the tickets have been cancelled, there have been refunds, and airlines have not been working, roadways have not been working, even the footways. And these 3 4 months, as I said earlier, May to June to July, are the months wherein they do a lot of business because you have domestic travelers also and you have foreign travelers also. Further, the Indian cinema has also expected to lose around 2,000 to 200 to 250 crores during this time period. And you would see that there were certain movies because of they were not released on box office, rather they were released on the platforms, OTT platforms like Jio, Airtel, G, all these. Even one of the movies was Drive by Sushant Singh, other I think Ketu, Love Ajkal. All these movies they didn't release in the box office. They had to be released on the OTT platform. as such. So big loss to the TV industry also, into the uh, movie industry also. Auto industry is one of the largest industry, which provides total around roughly 10% to our GDP as such, which totally to if the passenger cars, the production was reduced, and this had happened earlier also because prior to the COVID also this industry had slowed down. So out of the 240,000 units production was reduced, and that is the 10% of the total annual production. And the estimated loss is roughly 48,700 crores during this around 21 days. And maybe the sentiment is such that the market may not resume even if we have in unlocking now, and it may take another some time to take the markets up. And similarly, the light motor vehicles and motor vehicles, that means the scooters and all this, they also suffered as such because of this. So, but why I have covered auto industry is because auto industry is one of the largest, along with its vendors and all. It provides one of the largest employment generations, and it provides a good measure to our GDP. Then retail is one such industry which had a problem of plenty in the sense because during this time period when people were more focused on jaan hai to jaan hai, wherein the survival was at stake. So there was a surge in demand of initial supplies like atta, dal, sugar, all this, and there was a surge in demand and depletion of inventory, wherein the things were flying off the shelf very fast. But overall, they were facing a problem because of the demand supply gap and because of the production activities which were lessened or slowed down, and the supply chain was disrupted. And further, the panic induced. There was a lot of stockpiling by the people, especially of the middle class and upper middle class, wherein things were flying off and how things were. And you could just think over the case that 6 or 7, which I said, that Pawan Kumar, who runs a daily meat shop. He has a problem of plenty, but how to deal with such a problem? So all these people, they came out with various methods, innovative measures of like tying up the bazaar and the Flipkart tying up for the supply chain part, so that you reach the goods at your workplace and at your homes as such. Now, the entire thing has impact on our logistics part also, wherein or the supply chain movement also. There was no movement of people or very lesser movement because so revenues of all major the roadways, the railways, the airways, the cab operators, they were hit. Even seaports, there was very little export import, and even lot of time was taken for the custom clearances and all as such. Railway freight was also. So meaning that just imagine that lakhs and crores of people are working on all this now. And if all these things get a hit, there's overall hit on the employment rate and the income generation part also. Now, as I said earlier, that with all this part, I mean, everything is very gloomy because your primary sector is affected, secondary is affected, the tertiary sector is affected, all your major industries like auto, the travel tourism, the services part are affected. Now, what is the part that there are certain opportunities among the threats? One opportunity that is visible is that now we are moving towards the digital part or the internet part. Everything will be done in the sense that it will be through the technology. So this has a lot of potential for this technology to move on. So whosoever is moving in this part, whoever into this technology part, has a lot of potential to improve. And online education, it may not be the best opportunity or the best alternative available to us, but then maybe in tomorrow's time also. I don't foresee now that we'll be shifting towards a fully 100% formal education wherein face-to-face education will be there. Maybe some kind of a hybrid system, as Professor Chavla was also mentioning, would be inside. But it has a lot of potential for those companies and those sectors. Like we are working on Cisco WebEx today. So like all these platforms like Cisco, this Google Meet and all this. So they'll be earning a lot of these parts, Byju's and all these stuff. Then online skill development also is now possible in the sense that it will be in a big way, wherein you would have also seen that during this time period, all of us have joined and all of us have attended certain webinars wherein how to get into stock market trading and all this, and they charge a small fee of 100 rupees, 200 rupees as such. So online skill development is also a possibility, and all those people who are into this, they are will be benefited out of this. Then online groceries we have already talked about now. See, rather than going and face to face, Grofers, Big Basket, then Big Bazaar, and even Reliance Jio, they have started, and everything will be, yes, the delivery will be offline, maybe to your work or home place, but then the things will be out here. Then the digital content. What I mean out here is that during this lockdown period, you had Reliance Jio platform or the G5 app platform or Sony Live or maybe Airtel Extreme or Tata Sky. So there was a lot of demand for the digital content. So those companies and those sectors who are into it and who are digitizing the content part, they can bring it out and they can earn a lot of money out of this. And because of this now, I think what Swachh Bharat Abhiyan could not do, the COVID has done, in the sense that now we wash our hands after every 1 hour, if not more. We bathe while we come out from our office or otherwise. So now we have enlightened towards so much of cleanliness, so that the demand for specialty chemicals like disinfectants and then hand sanitizer, the masks, the face wash, face rubs, and all this are going to increase, and it has increased. So, and you would have known that earlier we had just two companies, one was Vitol and one was Savlon, who was into this market. But as of now, you would have seen number of companies who have jumped into manufacturing all this stuff. And that's that. And now, if you see on TV also, number of people who are manufacturing hand sanitizers, number of people who are manufacturing masks, and they are into advertising on TV as such. So this is a big opportunity for the people who are into the pharma sector. And with this, the pharma sector is also into it. We had Glenmark Pharma, which said that we have come out with a medicine wherein this will increase your potency or immunization as such. So many pharma companies are into this, getting into. So this is an opportunity for them to come out with certain medicines, which maybe even, and if somebody can come out with a vaccine, that will be bonus for you as such. Again, now because of the eyeball to eyeball we are having with China, and so much dependence on China for raw materials and otherwise, uh, this call was given by our Prime Minister for Atmanirbhar Bharat, wherein we tend to be not dependent on others but dependent on ourselves. Though it will take time and it is easier said than done because of so many issues. Now the time has come up wherein it will throw a lot of opportunities for our own sectors to do. And overall, what has happened is that with this COVID-19, apart from economy, it has brought in certain dynamic changes in the overall system. Earlier, oil was the king. Today, data is the king. Today, somebody who has a data, he'll be commanding the market. Then, if you are into the financing part, you would see that the debt instruments, and I know I have certain banker friends also into the system. Tomorrow, it will be, I have put it, it is a death knell of debt instruments, in the sense that the situation is such that people will not be going for debt instruments. They would say that whatever we have, because the leverage part is definitely going to go down over a period of time. And this has started by Reliance, wherein now that company is debt free. And many other companies have followed suit, wherein by even selling their other assets and all, they are trying to clear off the debt, so that leverage which was earlier high will now go out, and this will be a norm. And the future part will have maybe on reopening things that people will try to jump on the travel wagon, the tourism part will jump. And even, industries like waste management, the construction material industry, transportation, this will be improving as such. When these things were happening, the government tried to come up, and especially all governments, all 195 countries, especially USA, Canada, UK, Spain, Italy, they all tried to mitigate the whatever was happening as such, because the humans were into the health problem also. People were dying, people were getting affected, there was panic in the market, jobs were being lost. So what government of India did, I very briefly would say that firstly it was the food security for those people who could not afford, those people who were below the poverty line, the help to the uh, the state governments also providing atta dal to these people. Then the extra funds were devoted to the healthcare and for the states. Then there were sector-related incentives also to the various sectors so that they could grow. And as you know, that our financial year, which runs till 31st March, was increased or extended till 30th June, and I think now extended till 31st July. So even tax deadlines have been extended, and economic relief measures more in the sense of some kind of easy loans and all up to 1,70,000 crores pumping through the system. Even RBI announced 3,74,000 crores package to the country's financial system. Further, the government of India changed certain rules so that it could protect our companies while the stock markets are down, so that there could be no poaching by the foreign companies, especially the Chinese one. So they changed the FDI policies also. Even now, the Department of Military Affairs said that we will not have capital acquisition. But I think now this will all change with China and other belligerent forces waiting for us on the doors. And maybe the 20 lakh crore package announced by the Prime Minister is more in the sense of these easy loans and so as to pump some system into the some liquidity into the system. I don't know how good it will be to the system, but today I was reading Swaminathan Ankleshwara here in Times of India. It says that if you get people into this habit of providing doles and then funding this with fiscal deficit, meaning thereby loan, then it's a bad habit and it should go away. So rather, he said that India has done that way well, that it has not funded that aspect, though it has sent liquidity to the system, but it has not made these people dependent. So that because once the deficit financing goes up and your total debt of the country goes up, then things become bad, and overall it is very difficult to get into that debt trap. Now, various, I mean, I've gone through various articles and all this just to see what are the various suggestions, how things could have improved. One thing is that, earlier also, prior to pre-COVID-19 also, we don't have a problem in terms of the supply. Our supply is adequate. We have the problem in terms of the demand because there is no liquidity in the system. So government somehow should inject some kind of liquidity in the system, maybe by way of universal cash transfers. This goes by this. Universal cash transfer means rather than giving atta dal and all, you put in some money into somebody's account, in everybody's account. Maybe it is a 1,000 rupees per month or 5,000 rupees per month, or something into your accounts so that people can spend it by their own will rather than doing it. Then what government can do is that it can provide incentives to the corporates, because see, corporates are not spending their money. Already their capacities are more, and the overall capacities have been created more, and the goods are not being taken. So therefore, they have rather cut capacities rather than improve capacities. So there should be incentives in terms of tax holidays or otherwise, so that they should spend money. Because if they spend money, it will has a spiral effect on capital acquisition, it has a spiral effect on the employment and everything. Then governments should try to build infrastructure, and this has become more important also because now we have belligerent nations coming to us. So especially you have to build infrastructure in those areas like LAC they have been trying to do. Similarly in the western part. Similarly you can have in all parts, so that whatever is there in government should put in money and build infrastructure. So this will create jobs. Then you can have something like national employment guarantee scheme in the like of Manrega. Manrega is for the rural sector. So I think they have just tried in Bihar, where election is due, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, some kind of a employment guarantee scheme. This could be done so that some kind of social security is available if something happens again. Then banks and the financial institutions, non-banking financial companies, they should grant loans with a free mind, and especially collateral-free loans without much guarantees and all. And especially to those vendors and all who have the demand, small sector, SSI and all this. And generally I've seen, because I've worked in the financial institution sector also, generally the rate cuts and the schemes and the overall overall loosening of restriction that is done by the central government is not passed on to the consumer. So I think banks, FIs, NBFCs, they should very well pass on whatever cuts and whatever schemes are there to the general consumer, so that money actually goes into the system. Then further, if you can reduce the income tax or corporation tax rates, that will be a big plus. Simplify GST, less tax slabs. So some things, some aspects, some decisions and some aspects to be taken by the government, some to be taken by the corporate sector. And in this need of our, we have all to come together so that we can fight out. This is a big human tragedy, and people say that this is even worse than what happened during World War. So this has come up, and I think all of those who are lucky to be here and then who have survived in this part, we should also somehow by way of intellect or otherwise lend some lending hand to those people who are not. So this is a time to come up and survive, and then further things can be sorted out. So this is what I had planned for this. And if you have any question, this is most welcome. If you want to discuss, again, it is welcome. So now the house is open. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon, Sanjeev. Krishna
Sir.
Gopal Jain this side.
Yes, yes. Good afternoon, Christian. Very nice to see you. Yeah,
Very enriching session and very useful information. And I was also going through your suggestions. So one of the suggestion normally is asking bank to pass on collateral free or to provide loans on lower rate of interest. But
yeah,
as you all are aware, the bank are only trustee of the money. They don't have their own money. They take deposits from the public, and they have to pay interest and have to pay back the money also. And all
very good.
to all whom the bank lend
Hmm.
definitely have also deposits in their name, in their family members, in their friends' name with the bank. So
Right.
how a bank can pass on uh, or reduce rate of interest without reducing existing rate of interest he has to pay on deposits and to go on collateral free lending because in case there are NPAs and bank has to pay the money. Then we
Hmm.
require,
True.
in my opinion, banks require government support.
Hmm.
If any credit subvention scheme is there, or like
Right.
this credit guarantee scheme is there, only
Yes.
then
Yes.
can pass on. Because if the
Hmm.
banking system is not robust
Right.
or the banks fail, then it
Hmm.
will impact the economy more badly. And
Very good.
in my view, availability of credit, timely credit
Hmm.
is more important than 1.5% cut in rate of
Hmm.
interest,
True.
which in my present scenario, banks
Hmm.
may not be able to afford, because if you see the balance sheet of all the banks are bleeding, even
Hmm.
in the present scenario. So
Right.
your views, please.
Right. See, again, you've given the answer also, because as you know that in HFC also there is this credit guarantee scheme. So I think if the government provides credit guarantee scheme, and what I'm talking about is I'm talking about small loans. I'm not talking about very big loans, because the medium and the large sector in any way they are capable of providing collaterals also and other guarantees also. I'm talking maybe up to the tune of 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, so that these vendors which can survive today, and especially on the basis of not collateral, basis of their balance sheets, especially those who are already in the business. And if the government can provide credit guarantee to banks, and plus you would agree with me that now the deposit rates have also gone down. 5 years and more, the deposit rate is just 5.3%, which was earlier 7.5%. So what I mean was that this 2% should have gone to the consumer also, rather than, but you can tell me
So,
better whether this has gone to the consumer, because you reduced your deposit rates
no,
by
but
2.5%.
banks have
So
passed on.
whether this has been passed
Uh,
on.
To give you only
uh,
one perspective. Uh, so when we say that rate of interest has reduced, so it has reduced only on incremental deposits.
Hmm.
At present, banking industry has, to give you some figure, 1 lakh 35 lakh crore of deposits, and incremental deposits out of this 1 lakh 35 lakh crore, maybe 7 crore, 7 lakh crore or 8 lakh crore. That is less than 4-5%. All the
Right.
other deposits, whether it's in saving or fixed, it's at the earlier rate of interest. So if
Right.
if a bank is getting suppose at the maximum 2% less rate of interest on only 5% of it, that would come to around 0.1% of the total cost. So banks cost may have gone down by overall basis 0.1 cost percent, and banks have already passed on more than that.
Right.
So this is the dilemma. Just I wanted to make my point that
Yeah, yeah.
banks are. Hmm? So overall cost
So
of
I
the
think
banks have not reduced much. It is only 0.1, 0.2%.
100%. Thank you,
Good
Krishna,
evening.
for your
Uh,
valuable.
uh,
Yeah,
Good evening, Sanjeev. I'm Jatinder calling you from Mohali, Punjab. Can you hear me?
yeah, Talwar Sahab. Yeah, Talwar Sahab. Good morning.
Very good evening, sir. Good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Good afternoon.
just now Krishna Gopal has raised the point that the banks are not passing on the benefit. I would like to add to it that banks are governed by the RBI, and RBI has already linked all sort of a consumer loans with the repo rate. So repo rates are
Okay.
controlled by the government. So banks are only charging the overhead above the repo rate. So moment the government change the rate of interest, the immediately the benefit is being passed on the to the customer. So
Okay.
government is doing lot of initiatives. Government has launched a scheme like a CGTM SME schemes for bigger loans up to value for ticket size up to 2 crores, and for the ticket size up to 10 lakhs it's a NCGLT schemes is there. For export
Right.
it's a ECGC schemes are there. So there are the various schemes the government is launching. Major point is the banks are there to provide a liquidity in the system, but
Right.
that liquidity provided by the banks is being absorbed by the system as a
Mm.
fiscal deficit
Right.
that is not passed on passed on into the society and in the economy.
Right.
So this is the
Right.
problem, and that will
Mm.
only come up if the demand in the market is increased. The
Great.
demand is not in the market.
Mm.
So
Mm.
this is a very
Understood.
vicious circle the government is
Mm.
passing through it.
Very
So
good.
banks are there to give all sorts of sort of support, but fiscal deficit is by the companies. Now recently, the government of India has come up with the subordinate debt scheme. That scheme is going to be launched within 1 or 2 days. Earlier, the
Right.
government of India, under the package of 20 lakh crores, launched a scheme that 10% funding to the all borrowers. Then government come up with a 20% additional funding to the all borrowers. That
Right.
was backed by the government guarantee, that is no collateral security has been required. Now
Right.
to leverage the balance sheet of the companies, that is a debt
Mm.
equity. So that is
Mm.
a very major point in the balance sheet for taking a financial decision. Moment
Right.
this that equity ratio deplete, the banks are not able to give the financing. Now
Mm.
the government of India is coming up with the subordinate debt scheme, and this
Mm.
debt is not considered, will be not be considered as a debt, but will be considered as the part of a equity of a
Equity.
company, so that
Right.
their balance sheet is leveraged. The government
Right.
is giving all sort of a support to the
Mm.
system,
Mm.
but it's the system who has to take the
Mm.
call and
So,
to pass on this benefit to the society by
mm.
mobilizing the demand and by
Mm.
pushing the demand and by creating the demand.
Mm. Very right.
This is my
Very,
observation.
no, no, very, very good observation, Baji.
Sanjeev, can I
And
speak?
yeah, please, please.
Uh,
Yes,
your
please.
presentation has been quite comprehensive. I am audible now.
Yes, 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 sir.
Yeah. Your presentation has been quite comprehensive. I will only add a couple of things,
Sir.
to whatever you have been saying. In fact, I have been speaking about it in a couple of other platforms also. When we talk about Indian economy, rightly you
Sir.
pointed out in the beginning of your presentation that lot many things had started happening even prior to COVID. In
Sir.
March 2020, the kind of figures which were coming up, they were very disturbing.
Sir.
Valuation of banks at
Mm.
15 years low. 2004 figures. This
Right.
has been coming. Average maybe, in some of the banks maybe bigger. This is average that they were at the lowest valuation of 15 years. And we have been moving, since that time period towards upper middle class family from middle class family.
Sir.
After COVID, we have started moving from middle class family to lower middle class family side. The situation, which we are facing today, our what we used to call the strength of the Indian economy our young population,
mm,
which was, an asset some 10 years ago. Now it is going to be a liability if they are not addressed to properly. For
mm,
example, during last 7, 8, 9 years time period, we have gone to the average median age of 27.4, which in another 5, 6, 7 years will be, maybe in 10 years time period, will be reaching 34 median age.
right,
Well, with the data of unemployment which you have been talking about, and if it goes further, down under the circumstances which we are facing, you can imagine people unemployed at the age of 31, 32. In our families, it is accepted that, okay, guy is a child up to the age of 25, 26, parents will keep affording him. But
mm,
after a particular stage, you cross 30, it is not going to be possible that you will get that kind of support when you have to settle your family, and all those kind of things are coming, and this asset is going to be a biggest liability after 5, 6 years,
6 years.
what we used to consider as an asset. This is going to be a massive economic loss which we are going to face in coming years. What is going to happen? When we moved from middle class to lower middle class, 40 years ago where we were, you know एक वो
Right.
पुराने जमाने में गाना आता
Mm,
था अपना किशोर कुमार का 40 साल पहले, you know that becomes relevant today. The song was जीना तो है पर ए दिल कहाँ, अरे बैठी
mm,
बैठूं तो नहीं मिलती है जमी, मैं उड़ना चाहूं तो दूर आसमां.
mm,
That kind of situation is now coming in, where we are going to have severe security issues. ये
mm.
बातें आनी शुरू हो गई हैं.
हो गई.
When these laborer were also going, जब ये अपने घर के नजदीक पहुंचे तो उन्होंने लूटना शुरू कर दिया था लोगों को. These
Mm,
kind of insecurities used to be in the eastern part of the country, Assam से
right.
आगे ऐसी situations होती थी. Now slowly and slowly these insecurity issues are going to be
Mm,
dominant
mm,
because people don't have money.
mm,
300 million official figure, 420 million official figure prior to,
mm,
the COVID, that has gone up to 700 million poor people having a next epidemic from COVID moving towards hunger epidemic is going to be a biggest problem in our economy.
mm.
This needs to be addressed in a way. Uh, जो भी हो, चाहे छोटी जॉब्स हों, जैसी भी हों,
Mm,
unless they are created, we are going to get into a very, very big problem. Minus
mm.
46% was the GDP growth during COVID time period, which is
Right.
going to have an impact of minus 5% up to minus
Mm,
5% when it will be counted on the overall, years time period, 1 to 5%. This is being quoted
right.
by the
Very right.
international agencies.
Mm,
We are into a big crisis.
mm,
We are going to face lots and lots of, there are so many points which, I can
mm.
refer to, but
Right.
we don't have that much time, and there need to be lots and lots of deliberations on this. You have
Right.
rightly taken up this subject, and maybe when we have some long time, there are so many other participants who are participating right now, they may also would like to contribute something.
Mm.
But if we have a big time, this we can have a lots and lots of discussion on the economic aspect where we are going to suffer. We were talking about 5 trillion economy
Right.
by
Mm,
2025, and 7.9 trillion economy by
mm.
2030. Right now we are lesser than two companies in the world, Amazon
Right.
and
Mm,
Apple. These two
mm.
companies have a valuation more than whole of Indian economy. And
Mm.
I don't know whether we are going to go down further from 2.83. No,
Mm,
2.95, is
mm,
2.94 is our figure at current level, which was calculated at 8% to 9% of
mm,
GDP
mm,
to go to 5 trillion.
mm,
And if
mm.
this growth is going to be there, then maybe, we will be
Mm.
again 2.5 by 225. So
Very.
these are few things which I think needs to be addressed. Banking system, many of the participants they were talking about, That has to be taken seriously. The way things have
Mm.
happened, people don't want to deposit money in the banks. They
Right.
just want to go in unproductive asset, which used to be a habit 30 years ago, because of the confidence they are losing.
Right.
100,000 से जो 500,000 इन्होंने करा है
Mm.
अपना डेबिट अपना डिपॉजिट गारंटी, उसमें लोगों ने कॉन्फिडेंस लूज किया है। वो सोचते हैं कि
Yes.
इसका मतलब है गवर्नमेंट 5 लाख से जान छुड़ाना चाहती है।
Yeah.
एंड many things, I mean, you have to see from the psychology of
Yeah.
people. And anyway, presentation have been very good. I think we can keep on thinking on many issues, and we'll discuss many such things in the later stages. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right.
Good afternoon
Thank you, sir.
again,
Thank
sir.
Sanjeev.
If Sir Sanjeev ji, if time permits, may I
Yeah,
speak
yeah,
something?
yeah,
If
yeah.
time permits. Sir,
Yeah.
Chawla ji has raised few issues like regarding banking valuation and
Mm.
middle class segment and unemployment and other issues. In this, I would like to add, I'm calling from the COVID bed. So
Okay.
in this, I would like to add that prior to this COVID issue era,
Mm.
the
Mm.
government of India has already planned for the merger of the banks. The government
Right.
of India
Mm.
has already targeting to achieve 5 trillion economy by
Right.
2024 25.
Mm.
So government
Mm.
was on the track, but unfortunately 2020 situations arise,
Mm.
and
Mm.
the government has to derail all its plan and to divert its resources to in some
Right.
other aspects. And
Mm.
when we talk about the middle class segment and unemployment rate, so
Mm.
like in unemployment, when we talk about the unemployment during COVID, entire Ludhiana, Panipat, which is a garmenting hub and part
Right.
of that is the industry related to clothes,
Mm.
encashed the opportunity and shifted their entire production base from garmenting to PPE kits and mass
Mm.
production.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes. True.
so
Yes.
that that industry which was never existed in India, that is a
Mm.
that
That
is a
never
PPE
existed.
kit
True.
as well as never existed in India.
Mm.
Now
Mm.
the size of that industry is more
Mm.
than 7,000 crores.
Very
This
true.
is the capacity and capability of
Mm.
Indians as an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Moment they
Very true.
see any opportunity,
Mm.
they
Mm.
encash that opportunity. Earlier,
Mm.
also the PP kits were there, but the
Mm.
size of that business was so small that
Mm.
that was being catered by the from the import from the China. So
Right.
there is that is economic value was not there.
Mm.
So
Right.
now let's come to the point of the unemployment.
Mm.
So, sir, Chawla sir has just said that now in coming times, the average that is unemployment age will be about 34 or 35 years.
Mm.
Sir,
Median age.
this is a opportunity. This is an opportunity, just like a
Mm.
China. China always runs with long-term strategies. Like
Mm.
China has, why China is now raising the issues in the Galwan Valley, because
Mm.
right now the when the China has to send the goods to Europe, they
Mm.
have to pass through the Pacific Ocean, Hind Mahasagar, and Indian Ocean, and all those sugar. The long
Mm.
route is there. Now China
Mm.
is developing a Silk Route. Silk Route, that is a
Mm.
from China they will go to
Mm.
Pakistan, and Pakistan
Pakistan,
they are going to use the Arabian Sea. So
Afghanistan.
between China and Pakistan, India is
Mm.
occupying a Leh. That is a
Mm.
triangle
Mm.
between India and
Mm.
Pakistan, which area
Mm.
is coming between their Silk Route. So that's why now that this issues of this Galwan Valley and the other
Mm.
issues are being cropping up. So now the
Mm.
China is moving in a very long term strategy.
Mm.
This is
Mm.
their strategy since 1962. 62
Yes.
war, the major issue was for this
Mm. Mm.
capturing this area, Tibet and other area.
Mm.
So now
Mm.
let's come to the point. Now, same way, India has to grow in a positive way, making a long-term strategy.
Mm.
Let's
True.
this PPE kit is a one example.
Mm.
There
One
are the
example. True.
many
Mm.
products existing in the market, not only in India, in the world. There in
True.
one country
Very true.
economic value of a production is less. But talk about the
Mm.
entire global industry size, the economic value is much higher. So now we
Mm.
have to seek such products where we can produce in India and export to the various countries. Now
True.
we don't have to think locally. We have to
Mm.
produce locally and sell
And
it globally, just like a
global.
China. We have to change strategy. So unless and
Very true.
until we don't that is change our strategy, situation is not going to change. And the population from job seeker to job creator, this aspect has to be changed. And regarding that is uh, this is what I have to say. Thank you.
Very valid suggestions, Jitendra. Talwar sir, very valid suggestions.
Sanjeev
Tinjan,
Chaddha, good morning. How are you?
good morning, Tinjan. You
Uh,
wanted to say
first,
something?
first, first of all, my heartiest congratulations to all the organizers and especially to you.
Thank
Okay.
you so much,
And
Tinjan. Very
secondly,
nice meeting. Yeah.
yeah. And it is really very good topic and good insights you have given. Now, I have only two, three small points. One point is about the security. Like Mr. Chawla has already spoken about it. Why there was a mass migration from the places was because of one reason. There was intelligence input that these migrants laborers were they were it was the intelligence info that if they don't get the work, they will start all loots and all. So immediately there was a decision to shift them. One.
Right.
Second was about the banking, which KG has also taken and Jatinder has also taken, and Chawla sir has also spoke something. Uh, my view is that since the deposit rates are very less as an individual, what I will do is I will not go for the deposits, fixed deposits and all. But because I have some funds, like Chawla sir has said, 30 years back we go for unproductive things and all. Maybe that because I have not worked on it, and I will come to you after say next Sunday or so on that. But what I see is
Yeah.
now I will see just small small गज मिला किसी को for 100 गज मिला तो has to take care of that. Third is what Jatinder has said. Let me tell Jatinder, this kind of है उसके अंदर there are 2 points. One, ये जो चाइना पाक का इकोनॉमिक कॉरिडोर है, apart from then that national highway 30 comes from Pakistan, which meets 314H in
Right.
come from Indo-Pacific Ocean. So the, about 11 billion pounds trade every year is they are having through that particular port, which you say Gwadar port in Pakistan. So they have the alternate routes, many alternate routes, and Galwan is not because of that. Galwan front is just because you have the two reasons. One, you have the that you have the territory of Sichuan Glacier with you. One, so that which puts you in advantage stage that you can view that China Pakistan economic corridor, and second is that Daulat old Begi road, they want to give you a similar counter on that particular thing. That is only the reason. Third reason is this COVID function, this COVID-19 has mutilated the character and outlook of China to a way that it has become distressed. The GDP there has gone down. the unrest in the China is so much that they are fearing a civil type of not civil war but civil conflicts inside. So they just want to draw the attention towards this border and open this
Right.
war front so that they can just distract the people. And this is very much in favor to of Indian government also. Now that's my
Very good.
summation. Let's see.
No, very good. Very good. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else, please? Any suggestion, any input on what we have spoken? And maybe I have a suggestion that this is a good measure. Maybe if we can continue uh, after 2 weeks or so on some important topic. So this will give us a good idea, and this way we can meet also and then have this platform to spread our knowledge and share our information knowledge also. If you all agree with me, I was discussing with Professor Chawla also. Then maybe after 7 days or 10 days, some other topic would be done, and then we can get together for any future sessions. And if you have some
Sanjeev ji
suggestions on,
and Chavla ji, my request is that if we can keep on Sundays, because other days we are very busy. One.
yeah, yeah,
Secondly, the Chavla ji, before starting this particular presentation, has an idea to put a discussion on impact of COVID sector on education sector, and similarly, few sectors can be taken. So
yeah.
I think that this can be proceeded, and we can really, with the beautiful minds and wisdom of us, we can also contribute in some sense.
Yeah, so I think if Chawla is agreeable and all of us are here, number will not matter much, even if we are 10 or 15 people. I mean, it's a good start, and then we can build upon it. If sir agrees, then
No
maybe
issue.
next
Sunday
week.
is no problem. I think Sunday is absolutely okay. Sunday
So
we can
next week,
all
sir,
call.
same timing around 12:15 or so, you can have this presentation on the impact of COVID on the education sector and the way forward. Will it be all right?
Issues. No problem. No
Uh,
problem. Yeah.
so I think on the same platform, and then you
Chadaji,
can send your
Sanjeev ji,
attendance.
good afternoon. Vivek
हाँ
this
जी,
side.
good afternoon, sir. Sir,
Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha,
yes, sir.
Dr. Sanjeev Chaddha, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Colonel sir, good afternoon.
Good afternoon very much. Firstly, thank you. My thanks to everyone for sharing their expertise and experience throughout the webinar. I believe this webinar was one of the most productive. My special thanks to you and for very constructive and practical views. My only one request is that if for the next session, whenever you get the time, you can cover the Punjab economy. I'll very thankful to you about this.
Okay. So maybe next time sir will be taking a very good suggestion, Colonel sir. So then maybe after this week, that means that coming Sunday, the next Sunday, that means after 2 weeks, one of us and even I can take it on the economy of Punjab. What is the impact on the economy? Will it
Thank
be
you
all
very
right?
much, sir.
Thank you, Colonel sir. Thanks a lot for this.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed,
Thank
sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
I
Thanks
personally
for
enjoyed,
joining.
sir.
Chada sir, Vivek this side. Good afternoon.
Yes.
Vivek ji, good afternoon. How are you?
Well, fine. Thank you. Very nice session. You have selected very correct subject, which suits the current environment.
Yeah, thank you so much, Vivek ji. Idea was to provide some
Hello.
inputs on. Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hello. Yes, I can hear you. Vivek ji, please
Yeah,
go ahead.
the voice was breaking.
Yeah. No. I'm able to listen.
Yeah,
Yeah, please
the
go ahead.
session was good. Although I joined,
Yeah, please.
although I joined very late, little, but your topic was very interesting. Yeah, right. And short time to cover up such a vast area because COVID
Huh.
has affected each one of us in a very big way, right? And there are
Thank you
various
so much.
dimensions attached to it which need to be addressed.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, the idea was again this that this was just a sort of a capsule wherein I tried to cover all the three sectors of the
No,
economy
very
plus
nice,
some other
very nice
important. Yeah.
initiative, Chada sir.
Thank you so much.
Very,
Thank
very
you,
nice
Vivek.
initiative, and looking forward to interact more, and to participate in more interactions like this. God bless you,
Maybe
and
and maybe we can
thank you so
have
much.
one of your session also on one of the topics that you come across to us. So I think let us continue
Sure,
with
sure,
this. Yeah, thank you so
sure.
much, Vivek ji, for joining. Thank you.
Thank you, Chaddha sir. Good day.
Hello,
Good night.
sir. Good afternoon.
Haan ji,
Good
good
afternoon,
afternoon ji.
sir. Asta Batal this side.
Hello, Astha, how are you?
I'm good, sir.
All well? Yeah, Astha, please speak. Hello. Yeah, Astha, any suggestions from you or any inputs?
Yes, sir. Sir, actually, I was just thinking on one aspect that, the impact that COVID has left on working.
On the working population? Yeah, voice is breaking, Astha. Hello. Asta, can you listen? Are you able to hear my voice, Asta? Hello. So I think the link has broken. Rajiv wanted to say something. Yeah, Rajiv, you wanted to say something.
Good afternoon, sir.
Ji, good
Can you hear
afternoon,
me?
Rajiv. How are you? Thanks for joining.
Sir, it was a wonderful session. I was for the first time I just attended this kind of session. But next time I will be more participative and we'll have some more discussion, this type of session. But it
So
was
nice, Rajiv.
fantastic.
Thank you. I know your field is marketing and finance comes up, slightly boring and all this, but I think you would have got
Really,
some insights. Yeah,
yes, definitely. So next time I will.
yeah. Thank you so much, Rajiv. Thank you for joining. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Good, Sanjeev. That's a very wonderful experience. Huh? Like Sanjeev, huh? Always an entrepreneur.
Thank you, Tejan
Huh?
sir. Thanks a
Good,
lot.
good, good.
And again, by this way, we met a few
Sanjeev,
of
what
us
I
in one of the.
request is just my request is the one, can you share your presentation, and second, can you share the topic for the next week so that at
All
least
right.
we should be also prepared. Like
Hmm.
we have 4 5 days to prepare, then we can at least contribute something fruitful.
Very true. So what I'll do is
Yeah.
I'll share all of you. I have your email IDs also. So I'll share my
Yeah.
presentation with you, and the topic also from my side. I'll share the topic simply as we have already discussed is the impact of COVID-19 on the education sector and the way forward. So that will be taken by Chawla sir next same time on the same platform. So I'll send all
Fine,
of you
fine.
the invites also once it is done. So friends, thank you so much. Sunday morning and the weekends, and but I think all of you were here, and it was a very good interaction and very good insights coming from all of you. So I think let us continue, even if we can have 2 3 such discussions in a month. I think will be enabling us to improve our knowledge part, and then and somehow when we are not meeting physically, so again through this platform only if we could be able to see each other's faces, that will always be welcome. So thank you for so much, and signing off for now, and see you. So the PPT and all I'll be sharing personally with you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for that. Bye bye. Thanks.